She was stolen from Africa as a child. She grew up to write poetry that crossed an ocean. And still, because she was black and enslaved, she was told to prove the words were her own. Her name was Phillis Wheatley. It was not the name she was born with. No record of that name survives. In the summer of 1761, a slave ship reached Boston. Among its captives was a girl of about 7, old enough to remember Africa, young enough that she was losing her baby teeth. A merchant named John Wheatley bought her as a servant for his wife. They named her for the ship that had carried her across the Atlantic, the Phillis. What the Wheatleys did next was, for the time, almost unthinkable. They taught her to read. Within a few years, this child was reading Latin and scripture and the English poets, and then she began to write. She was a prodigy. Her first poem appeared in a newspaper in 1767. 3 years later, an elegy she wrote for a famous preacher was reprinted on both sides of the ocean. By her late teens, an enslaved girl in Boston was one of the most talked about poets in the English-speaking world. And that fame collided with something ugly, because a great many people simply refused to believe it. An African, a woman, a slave. Surely, they said, someone else had written these poems. So the doubt had to be answered. 18 of the most prominent men in Boston, the governor of Massachusetts among them, and a young merchant named John Hancock, put their names to a single statement: that the poems, they verily believed, were written by Phillis, a young Negro girl, that she had been examined and was thought qualified to write them. What that examination was, a conversation, a reading, a room of powerful men, history did not record. No transcript survives. All that survives is the page they signed. Proof demanded of her that never would have been demanded of a white man. Even with that page, no printer in America would publish her. So the book crossed the ocean the way she once had. In London, in 1773, it appeared. Poems on various subjects, religious and moral. The first book of poetry ever published by an African American. Soon after the book was printed, the Wheatleys set her free. Freedom came just as her whole world began to come apart. She had never been quiet about slavery. In a letter written in 1774 and printed in newspaper after newspaper, she named it plainly.
In every human breast, God has planted a love of freedom, impatient of oppression, and panting for deliverance.
Then she turned the revolution's own language back on the men making it. How absurd, she said, to cry for liberty while holding others in chains. When the war came, she wrote a poem for its commander. She imagined America as a goddess. She called her Columbia, and blessed the fight in its most quoted line.
Proceed, great chief, with virtue on thy side.
Washington wrote back, in his own hand, from Cambridge. He thanked her. Her lines, he said, were a striking proof of her great poetical talents. And if she ever came near headquarters, he would be happy to see a person so favored by the muses. By one account, she went, a freed black woman and the general of the Continental Army, face to face. It was the height of her life, and it did not hold. The family that had educated her was gone, Susanna Wheatley dead, then John. Her patrons scattered by the war. Around 1778, she married a free black man named John Peters. They were poor, and the country was at war, and it broke over them. She had 3 children. She buried all of them. The most celebrated black poet in the world spent her last years scrubbing floors in a Boston boarding house. On the 5th of December, 1784, Phillis Wheatley died. She was about 31. Her last surviving baby died with her. They were buried together, in a grave no one marked. She had given the new nation some of its most beautiful words for liberty. She had named it Columbia and blessed its fight to be free. And the country being born on those words, let the woman who wrote them die unfree of hunger, in the dark, without a stone. They made her prove she had a mind. She proved it to 2 continents. 250 years later, the least we owe her is to believe her and to say the name she was given, because the one she was born with is lost. Phillis Wheatley. Remember her.